Yes, hi Kushbu. Good morning. Am I audible? Sure, not an issue. Hope I'm audible, right? My sound is good? Okay. Hi Shinoj, good morning. Yeah, no issues. Oh, sorry, good afternoon, Shinoj. Yeah, good afternoon again, Shinoj. My name is Roshan Kumar Shah. So basically, I'm based out in Nepal. So I was, born and brought up in Nepal. So up till class 10th, so I studied over there. And then for 11th and 12th, I did some IIT preparation. I could not crack IIT, but I got 100% scholarship for my BTech in computer science engineering from SRM University. And then for 2 years, 2.5 years, I worked with Ford Motor Company in Chennai as a SQL database administrator. And since the last 3 months, I have been working as a SQL admin in Agria Solutions. So that's my overall journey. Uh, in Ford Motor Company, it was a large team. So we had three teams, in fact. So the first team was Asia Pacific teams, including 26 DBAs, and the second team was North American team, which had 14 DBAs, and the third team were European Union, so which had 6 DBAs. So it was a large SQL team for Ford Motor Company. Okay, so the first activities were the ticketing system which we have in Smart IT. So daily, I mean, we used to receive roughly around 400 tickets, depending upon the criticality, either low, medium, or high. So as for example, we used to take care of the orphan users or the SID mismatches, or even some simple work orders. As for example, sometimes we used to get like backup restore kind of thing from the application side. So these used to be like the typical day-to-day activity. However, there is always on call. That SQL admin. So while so it comes once a month. So once a month for 1 week, you have to be the on-call DBA, and that's the game changing. So you have to work with production outages. Sometimes fine-tune the queries immediately. So those two are the major aspects of day-to-day activity. And apart from that, we have a few projects. As for example, so there were roughly around, I believe, 600 applications. So sometimes there could be app ID mismatches. So a drill comes periodically once in a quarter, and we correct all the SID mismatches. Or even during the COVID pandemic, so we had a project coming from the upper management. We had plenty of servers, and we converted from enterprise edition level servers to developer editions. So these were a few incoming projects as well, apart from the day-to-day activity works. Correct. So yeah, so let me elaborate on that. So we had a ticketing system, a smart IT tool. So there were only two kinds of how should I put? There were two kinds of tickets. Either it could be a work order or it could be an incident. So all the incidents were automatically generated by the SCOM, that System Center Operating Management. So as for example, suppose your G drive is low. So we had a recommendation, always to place the backups in the G drive, the log files in the H drive, the primary and secondary files in the F drive. Okay, so all the incident tickets were automatically generated by the SCOM monitoring system, and the other ticketing types were the work orders. So these are the app, like the human beings working from the application side, and they manually create the tickets. So not only simply backup and restore, it could be like anything, depending upon the performance tuning or backup and restore, or even for the suggestions. If you are there planning for a new application, so they can take suggestions from the database design. So work order literally could be anything, of course with respect to SQL. It mostly it used to be database level backup. So we had for every three environments, for every applications we had three environments, like prod, QA, and dev. So we used to replicate the prod situations, the environment, into the dev replica for their testing and all. So these used to be the maximum of the cases which we have received such tickets. Correct. So we do have automated scheduled backups, automated daily full backups. But the question is like, so all the changes, I mean, the broad database, is the most latest database, which have, all the updates and the deletes and the, coming in. So those, queries do not hit the development application. So we have three replicas, okay, one for prod, QA and dev. Now all of the, queries are hitting in the prod. So even the application, which is live 24/7, so it is hitting in the prod. So that's why, there is a need to, take a backup from prod and then restore in dev. Why? Simply, to replicate the same environment as prod into the dev. I mean, because suppose if you are dealing with a, a performance tuning issue, then directly, you cannot, play around prod servers, right? So even the application team, they ask us, to replicate the exact situation, exact, the entire database. Even not even a single row could be mismatched. So that's why we used to take the backup from the prod environment, move to the dev environment and then restore into the dev replica. So yeah, so I manage both. So not even as an admin, we also work as a, developer. So sometimes, the business, they ask us, to create a logic for their, I mean, they provide us the logic and then we have to, design the SPs. So I mean, in respect of both, so it is kind of like a 50-50, both as an admin and as a developer. I mean, with respect to querying, T-SQL querying, and as well, managing the indexes, updating the statistics, the histograms and all. Maximum of the times, we used to get the SPs. As for example, sometimes, I mean, typically the SPs used to, get executed within a few seconds, like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and then suddenly, we came across to know that the application time is facing problem, and now it is taking more than 50 to 60 minutes. So now the general top-down hierarchy. So I mean, the logical expression, go through the execution plans. So maximum of the times, I have seen, the temp DB, spills. So sometimes, the VM is, out of the memory, and, all the reading of the data has to come via the temp DB. I mean, the IO operations in spite of the memory. Or sometimes, there are no join predicates. So if the, if the execution plan, I mean, following the right to left execution plan doesn't help out, then we go through the performance counters. And I mean, there are a few performance counters like percent, processor time, available memory, or even the checkpoints, the number of checkpoints happening in the SQL backend every minute. So go through those. And if this doesn't help, go through that extended events. Sometimes, manipulating all the DML and DDL hits, also, auditing those gives us an idea what the problem was. And last but not the least, if nothing helps out, then finally, we go to the SQL Server profiler. We keep it as a low priority as the profiler, because it also affects, the performance of the SQL Server. So we also, set up a new trace file for the profiler, and see all through the RPC completed jobs. I mean, all the remote procedure calls completed, get there the host IDs, and, the login, who has performed the operations, and even the authentication times, Kerbos or SQL or Windows authentication. So scan through those. So these used to be our, like complete holistic approach, to fine tune a query, get rid of the nested loops, use your joins properly, either left joins or right joins. So these used to be our, typical ways to fine tune a query. Yeah, correct. So yeah, the execution, yeah, you find it valid. So I mean, during the execution plan, right, so we have a recommendations, maximum of the times, even recently I faced a situation. So in one of the client scenarios, so we had a database, and all of the, the indexes were the primary key constraint table. So we had not even a single non-clustered index on the entire database. So all the, the missing non-clustered indexes, including, the covering indexes. So we create that as well. And, so we create the missing indexes, for the performance tuning. And, even check the fragmentation level of the indexes. Sometimes, even if you have indexes, but, if you regularly insert and delete data from the table. There are high level of fragmentation in the index. Now depending upon the fragmentation level, if it is above than 70%, then we rebuild. And if it is between the range of 30 to 70%, then we reorganize it. And if it is below 30% of index fragmentation, then we let it be. And after of course updating the, I mean, rebuilding or reorganizing the index depending upon the fragmentation percentage of the index, we update the statistics as well with full scan, to update all the histograms, so that the estimated number of rows and the actual number of rows are nearly coincide. Yeah, correct. So see, the thing with the non-cluster index is like it comes with a cost as well. I mean for cluster indexes you don't even need a single bit of a space, but for non-cluster indexes you need a space to store it. So sometimes I mean one might think, right? We will create non-cluster index on all the 100 columns of the table, but in a way it degrades the I mean not only data warehouse loading or even deleting, it will affect it. So because suppose if you have 1 million sorry, excuse me, suppose you have 1 million rows in a table, and if you are inserting and or deleting any row from the table. Now the thing is like all the indexes, and you have 100 indexes for the entire 100 columns. So the problem is like all needs to be updated. So yeah, non-clustered indexes, or so it comes with a cost as well. It's not like you can create anywhere. So yeah, one needs to be sharp enough, how to, I mean there is a recommendation from the execution plan, when to create it. But go through it once, because while creating the non-clustered index, suppose you are creating the non-clustered indexes on 2 columns, okay, and plus you are even using covering indexes to include 3 or 4 more columns. Now the main problem is like if you change the order of the columns, even that has a significant impact on the database loading or even deleting. So choosing the order of the column is important as well. No, not as of now. So I have read about it, but as of now, no, neither horizontal partitioning nor vertical partitioning. So as of now, I have not done it, the partitioning. Sorry, come again, please. Yeah, as for example, suppose you have a table, right, and you have 10 billion rows in it. Now, even, creating, I mean, the best possible, the cluster and the non-cluster indexes is not going to help you, if there are, 10 billion of rows to, even the, forget about the table scan, even the index seek, nothing is going to help us out. I mean, there would be, the cost of time. So the query execution will take some time. So the partitioning is done, to like logically change the split the table. I mean either horizontally or vertically. So that is why partitioning is done. In order to improve the query execution time. Could you repeat the question, please? Okay, give me a second. So we have a partition column, and we are creating some index. So will it? Hmm. Uh, I think it should help in a way. Even if you create the index, it should be a plus point, because even if you reorganize the indexes, so even if there are splits, but it should help. But again, I think I'll have to dig deep on this one. So yeah. Yeah. So I mean, not in my current organization, but in Ford Motor Company, we had roughly around 30 pairs, where we had mirroring. So we use set up the principal and the mirror servers with a witness server.